Hey guys, David Patrick Green here, hackhollywood.com. Actually, I just wanted to do something before I get started on the video, guys. I don't know if you've seen this, the the Hack Hollywood t-shirt. I don't know if that's something that you guys are interested in, but I think I'm going to make them available. So look for a link on some of my videos. I will try to paste the link on this video when I have it. But anyway, guys, I don't know what day we're into, but we're into the coronavirus, and I've got I think a really relevant video that relates highly to what we're all going through with self-isolation and hearing different messages from different people, and how you can relate all this to your acting career. You know, I find that actually comparing other things to acting is very helpful, because acting seems like it's completely different from everything else, and to a certain extent it is. I mean, everything's slightly different from everything else. Hey, cool alleyway. But really everything in life is more or less the same. You know, there really aren't any shortcuts to life, and really what happens in your life is largely up to you, and then what isn't up to you, don't worry about it. It's beyond your control. You just have to pay careful attention to what is within your control, what you can do. So today I just wanted to talk about patience, okay? You have to be patient with yourself, and you have to be patient with your career, and you have to be patient with others. So for example, coronavirus, right? There's no quick way to deal with it as a society, and even as an individual. There are limited resources. You have to get tested. You have to find out if you have it. Sometimes it may take a long time to show symptoms. It may take a long time before the virus reproduces sufficiently so that it can be measured in your bloodstream, or however they decide to measure it. Because you know, you could have the virus, but in such a small quantity that the blood sample they take doesn't actually contain any of the virus, and so they'll say you don't have it. As it turns out, you do. It just hasn't replicated yet. So you have to show patience. We as a society have to show patience with each other, right? We don't know all the answers, and what we try and do is do what we think sounds logical. And so you have people that will defy that. People like Donald Trump, who just says, I just want to get the country back in action by Easter. Completely illogical. Like, why would you say anything about when you want things to be back to normal if you have no idea how virile or virulent the disease is at that point? It's just, you know, it defies logic, it defies description. He's pretty good at painting the world the way he wants it, though, and you know, that's definitely a political maneuver, and you got to really pay attention to that. But let's say, for instance, you've got a doctor. I think there's Dr. Fauci is his name. He's like the Surgeon General of the United States, or somebody like that, or he's the head of the CDC. And you know, he knows what the solution is, but he also knows the shortcomings of our ability to make the solution come true, right? Like lack of resources, lack of tests, lack of this, lack of that, lack of knowledge, lack of information, having to try things and see what happens. And, you know, is self-isolation going to work, or do we have to lock down the streets and put the military on the streets? And, you know, you get one chance to go home. If not, they shoot to kill. That's what they do in some countries. Like in India, they're beating people up if they go on the streets, and they're shaming them, and they're making them do push-ups and getting on their knees and apologizing. You know, so we live in a very liberal society, and unfortunately, we're not used to lockdowns like the way things were in World War II, let's say, where everybody knew that we had to listen to the leaders to the, you know, as much as we thought that they knew what they were doing, and we had to all act as one, unified. So it was much easier for them to rally around a cause and not get all caught up in, oh, but I don't want to do that. You know, like people that want to go to Starbucks, get over it. You know, sorry, you can't go. Just find another way. of dealing with your life, of living. Anyway, so the disease is it's not exactly clear how it works or how to defeat it. I mean, we kind of know what it is, and we now have a plan where we're, getting the antibodies. This is what the medical community is doing, and they are running tests, figuring out what drug or what other methods of suppressing it or defeating it are possible. And there's really no choice in the matter. We have to go through this process, okay? There are no shortcuts. Donald Trump is sort of like a bad actor, and that's, pardon the pun, but he is like a bad actor, meaning that if he was an actor, he would just be saying, oh, well, I plan on having this many jobs by Easter. Well, that's great, but you're not the one who hires actors, Donald. You are an actor, so you don't get to decide when you will get this many jobs, especially when you're not really doing anything. Now, what I will say is helpful is that he does have a goal in mind, but unfortunately, he doesn't have any stated methodology for accomplishing that goal, right? He's just saying it, but he's not saying this is how we're going to get there, because of course he doesn't know, because there's so much uncertainty. But with an actor, you can say something like, I want to have 6 acting jobs by Christmas. Now, you're not going to be able to determine if it comes true or not, but what you will be able to do is put into place a plan that you think will get you there. But you realize that you can't just say it and expect it to happen, okay? You've got to have patience to try things out, create your plan, and then try things out and see what happens. Because some things just require time. For instance, today I was listening to a casting director talking about how she casts smaller roles. And she was talking about her process. And listening to her process, I thought was really interesting, because basically, as far as an actor is concerned, what she had to say was of no use whatsoever, because they said, how do you cast small roles? And her process, I'm not going to name her, but she casts major television shows. And her process was, she gets all the submission. Well, first of all, she decides for herself who would be the ideal person for that role. And she said, I may ask the producer or the director who their ideal person for that role is, like a celebrity, right? So then she can ostensibly compare this celebrity caricature persona to all of the people that are submitting. But here's the problem with that whole formula, and this is why almost all casting director advice is pretty much useless. What if she doesn't know you? Because then how does she compare you just based on your look? Like, oh, you look like Brad Pitt, so I'll bring you in, even though you could be nothing like Brad Pitt. And how you are as a person is much more important than what you look like. And this is where actors are confused, because they're like, but I'm told to get headshots, and so I'm assuming they're just bringing me in based on what my headshot looks like. Well, maybe that's true, but what a gigantic mistake on both of your parts when they're calling you in based on what you look like, and you don't even know if what you look like is what you come across as, and they think that you're going to be what you look like in their minds, which, how their mind looks at a photo and processes it, and how you do are likely completely different things. So it's just an extremely flawed process from the get-go. And this is why you have to really dig down and look into that process and go, where are all the flaws and how can I hack them? Sorry, did I show you hack Hollywood? Yes, that's what I do. I hack around all the flaws in the process so you can get straight to where you need to go. So she's talking about, okay, first of all, I get the celebrity, representation, the what do you want to call it? It's going to come to me after I shut the video off. But the representation, which is not the right word, but the person who is the ideal person based on what some director said. And, you know, who knows how hard they thought about it, right? They're like, that's your job. Cast the damn thing. If I knew who to put in it, I would have, right? So they asked for the celebrity. Then what they do is they look at all of the pictures, and she even said, you know, the tiny little pictures, I look at them and without thinking, I just click on them. And, you know, she's going to have some people in mind. She goes, I'll have some people that I know that will do this size of role. See, that's the thing. If you're talking about a small role, people want to move on from small roles, so they don't stick around very long to do them. They want to move on to bigger stuff, right? They want to move on to guest stars and series regulars, etc. So she looks at these tiny little icons and she clicks on them blindly, basically. I don't ask myself why, I just trust my instincts. Okay, fine. So she clicks on all these names, and then she, you know, starts to bring them in. Well, there you go. She didn't say anything about demo reels, looking at resumes, any of that stuff, because frankly, it's irrelevant. And she even said that. She goes, I'm not going to dig deeply into what they've done because I don't know what that tells me. I mean, if they've got a bunch of legitimate TV work, then I guess it tells me, okay, they are professionals. They know how to act to a certain extent. But then, you know, then it's really just sort of a random action. So then once she's brought them in, I guess she hopes one of them will be right for the part. And frankly, if the role is small enough, they won't be, well, they might be picky or they might not be picky. I mean, frankly, you're either good at it, you know what you're doing, or you don't. So, you know, what an actor can do, here's how you would defeat that process: through patience. You don't worry about submitting yourself for everything all the time and crossing your fingers, you know, and hoping that they're going to bring you in based on your picture, because you can see how random that is. It's really not much different than choosing lottery numbers. You can use, you know, your kids' birthdays or some other random, you know, mystical method, but it boils down to it's mystical. There's no logic behind it. Or you can apply logic and patience to the situation, and you go, okay, so the way I would get called in based on what she said, the first thing she said is a celebrity thing. Okay, I can't do much about that, but you could maybe, because you'll never know that information, right? You'll never know what celebrity, if any, that the producer or director mentioned when it came to casting this role. So you'll never know that. So you don't have control over that. Where in the process do you think you have maybe some control? Well, she's looking at these tiny little pictures and she's clicking randomly. And the other thing was bringing in people she knows might be right for it. How does she know that? Well, she's already had experience with them. Maybe she knows them personally because they have developed their relationship, or maybe she just has hired them in the past, which can be a bit of a, you know, a bit of a red herring, because I've been cast in lots of things that I was really not personally suited for, meaning my personality is not that suited for it, but I was able to pull it off because of how I act or how I look or whatever. So that person, this casting director, might actually not know you well enough to actually think you're right for something. So it's obviously very important that they know you beyond just what you've done for them. Even if they have hired you, they may see you in a way that's not actually very accurate about you. So the way you can get around this is to know them in some way, right? That would be the most logical, because you don't have control over the celebrity thing. You just have control over what you think you're right for. And so you would want your, well, the first, bugs. So the first thing you want to do is get to know them in some way. So how do you get to know them? Well, you can go help them out. You can go to the casting societies, Casting Society of America, Casting Society of Canada, Casting Society of UK, Australia, whatever. Go volunteer at their events. Go help out. You're going to meet tons of casting directors. And I'm not necessarily advocating that, because I think casting directors, their role in the hiring and casting process is highly confused. by actors. They think they have a lot more power than they do. They have the power to bring in, but they do not have the power to hire. So anyway, you go help out. You can go help out at I don't know, anything you can come up with. Go help out at their office specifically. Then you get to know one at a time, and you build your relationship. And then when roles come up, when they see your face, they instantly go, boom, it's David. He's right for this. Or it's David, I don't think he's right for this. But if you feel strongly, then you might say to your agent, hey, if you see something like this come up with this casting director or this producer, whoever you know, you just say, hey, push them, or let me know, and I will call them, and they will bring me in. And I've done that many, many times. So that's how you defeat the randomness of the process, is know them, and when something comes up, you have a representative or yourself call on the person and say, hey, you need to bring me in for this. Okay, so if they don't bring you in yourself, that, you know, they might bring you in based on knowing you, but again, they don't know you as well as you know you. And so there are times when you're going to want to say, hey, I could do this. Okay, so then the next step in the puzzle is, the next layer down was, okay, I look at these little icons and I click them, and I just trust my instinct. So then this is getting very random, but basically this is like picking lottery tickets with some knowledge of the results. Okay, like maybe everyone else is picking from 49 numbers, and maybe you're gonna be able to reduce it to 30 numbers or 25 numbers. Okay, you're increasing your chances of winning slightly here. Maybe greatly, but it's still not super powerful. But what I would do is make sure that your headshot represents the exact types of roles that you might be a great fit for. Now, I don't recommend wearing uniforms, although that could be a good way to get started, is to have, you know, if you are a policeman or everybody thinks you look like one, then, you know, have a picture of you as a cop, but then, you know, maybe have one as you as a detective, whatever. But, you know, don't get all caught up in the garb. You know, if you want to be a cop, okay, wear a policeman's shirt, but don't show all of the regalia. Like, then they'll be like, okay, this is weird. It's like really his job. They don't really want that. They just want to know you can look like it. And then they'll probably assume that you also have the personality for it as well. Okay, so that is just something you can do, is to make sure you have, you know, 2, 3, 4 headshots that show you in 3 or 4 relatively different scenarios that represent the types of roles you feel like you are just a shoe-in for. You're going to nail it. And I wouldn't be too worried about age. I'd be more worried about the personality type, the type of thing, the believability. Okay, so again, I've done lots of roles that were written for somebody that didn't describe me, and I've also lost roles for which the description was perfect for me. Like, they even said, I want to hire you, and then they said, oh no, we got to go with more diversity or whatever. And that's just, you know, that's the situation. You don't worry about it. So there you have it, guys. If you exhibit patience, just like the people who are trying to solve the riddle of coronavirus, and plan things out, think of things you do have control over, where you can insert your power, your abilities, and apply that concept. Watch what they are doing with coronavirus, and then ask yourself, how can I apply this to my acting? And you'll know. I mean, some things are outside of the control of the doctors. They just got to keep testing, right? They're like, they come up with theories, hypotheses. This is how I think I might be able to kill this virus. This is the drug I think might work. Or this is how I think we need to modify this drug to destroy the virus based on what we know about it, okay? And that's what you have to do with your acting career, is look at auditions and acting jobs as sort of obstacles. And, you know, how do you solve the obstacle? How do you overcome the obstacle? There's things that are in your way. What are those things? and how do you get them out of your way? How do you get the people that are closing the door in your face, or at least in your mind, how do you get them to open the door? Okay, guys, I don't want to get too much into this. We're already at 20 minutes, which is unbelievable. But hopefully this was helpful. And guys, just stay safe out there. Practice social isolation if you need to, social distancing. Get exercise, but don't go work out in the park where everybody else is working out. Go find your own little corner, throw a rope over a tree and do some pull-ups, upright rows. You can do all kinds of stuff with that. I may even do a video on how to exercise during coronavirus, because I'm kind of an expert at that, amongst many other things. Too much time on my hands. All right, guys, that's it for now. If you like this, please like it, share, subscribe, bell for notifications, and I'd love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. And I'm serious. What are your questions, guys? Do you agree with what I said, or am I wrong? What am I missing? Tell me, what am I missing? And I will try. I'm pretty sure I'm not missing anything, but I may not have explained it sufficiently so that you get it. So if you have any other angles you want me to explore, other topics you want me to explore, let me know. That's it for now, and I'll talk to you soon.